Greetings, fellow shipbreakers. Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of a new series covering Ostranauts. If you would like to skip the game's overview or the details about this series, please use YouTube chapters. Ostranauts is a hardcore noir space sim. Manage life aboard your ship and beware the cost of every decision you make. Scavenge and explore the boneyard, create, build, and customize your ship, hire a crew to help, but remember, nothing is certain other than death and taxes. You start off massively in debt, having taken off a punitive mortgage on a really crummy ship, and every day can be a struggle to survive. Since I last played this, it has had two major updates. One is a inventory update, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but the other major update, which is recently landed, is the fire in the hold. And the update allows ships to be outfitted with weapons, sensors, you can mine asteroids, and there is a new zone, Ceres, to explore. In this series, it will be a mix of Let's Play and tutorial, and I'm going to start off in a Coffin ship as Hunter Elliot, a 26-year-old male shipbreaker who is humorless, shy, complacent, but also skilled in shipbreaking and hacking. And the goal is to move to Ceres to seek glory. So this is a brand new game, but I wanted to go through the character designer ahead of the stream because getting a Coffin ship is rather rare, and I wanted a Coffin ship to start because it will speed things up ultimately. So I made the character ahead of time as a result. And here is Hunter, 26-year-old shipbreaker. And as I said, they are skilled in EVA suits, hacking, ship engineering, zero-G ops, male and attracted to women, young adult, insomniac, humorless, shy, and complacent, but still youthful because he's young. And I am going to be stepping through the tutorial without missing a beat. And then once I get through the tutorial, we'll get into sort of like the more important bits. Oh, and if you're wondering, this is what Hunter looks like. I suppose you could see it on the big screen over here, but yeah. Hunter Elliot. All right. So the game is going to throw us tutorial goals, and we're going to follow them. So hold Alt to see hotkeys and nearby interactable objects. And it will highlight interactable objects in the shadows. All right, next goal, press right mouse or left mouse button or I to look for the inventory items you have. So you start off with a PDA with two components in it. And the shirt, literally just a shirt on your back. That is it. All right, next goal. Move the yellow jumpsuit and shoes onto the ground into your inventory screen. So there used to be like a way to see what you were standing on, but now you actually just have to go and pick it up. So I'm going to hit equip, equip, and equip. There we go. We're dressed and ready. All right. We need to press right mouse button on the power switch and toggle the lights on for the room. And they're on. Collect the pressure suit and helmet from the inventory bin, the rack over here. Here's the pressure suit. First, I'm going to put the tote on our bag, and then the pressure suit and helmet inside. All right, next goal. Place the yellow toolbox in my hand slot. Normally when you're going through the tutorial, there will be more pop-ups than this, but because I already like pre-made the character, it looks a bit different than your first time through. All right, so that goal is done. Walk through the KLEG station, or KLEG, that's what I'm going to call it, and board your ship docked at the airlock. The door to KLEG station slides open, and you're greeted by the familiar aroma of station vendor fare, spot prawn stir fry in suya curry, kebab of chicken in a yaji spice rub, Szechuan beef with peppercorn. Your head knows that the meat is aquaponic or live-grown or worse, but your heart tells you that anything prepared by human hands is better than trench or chow. Tired-looking spacers circulate between the bunks, the refuel kiosk, and the breaker yard, moving in and out of the gossamer haze of cigarette smoke that is a permanent fixture of the station. The smokes are Sungara Viceroys, the breaker brand of choice. Folks here will chain smoke them unfiltered no matter how many times the Awatajima execs find them for overworking the CO2 scrubbers. Your new ship is waiting in port, not far from the kiosk hub and scrap shops. Once you find it, you can finally undock from this rock. You'll want to strip ships for salvage. All you need are hand tools you own, but you'll need a welder to start remodeling and repairing hulls. Either way, if you're lucky, you can finally start making a living. Something beyond the corporate-sponsored rat race of breaking ships for daily wage, a life you can call your own. I'm gonna walk up this way, and there is a conduit on the floor. So, there's a loose conduit in the hallway. Reinstall it for a karmic reward. Start by right-clicking on it, and then we can either pick it up or just say install, and I'm going to install it in the wall. Now, I don't have a lot of skills just yet. You know, I don't really know electrical engineering, and therefore things are going to take a very long time until I'm a little bit more skilled, but within a short period of time, I'll have the skills to be able to do these retrofits and repairs much, much more quickly. All right. Install the conduit, restores power to the door. Search the room beyond for your reward. There's something in the dark. And there's a rack. And there's a rack with a friction welder and a tactical knife. All right. Well, that was an instructive diversion. Continue to your ship. So our ship is parked down here. It is a hunk of junk. I made sure it was. We have 99 bucks in our pocket. And we are going to be pushing off. So we've boarded the ship. Any object in the room can be right-clicked to open the mega tooltip. So like here's a thruster. And this thruster is mostly intact. It's powered on, so on and so forth. The same spot in the room can be repeatedly, right-click repeatedly to go to compartment. So in this compartment, which is the room that we're in, it is 80% nitrogen, 22%, well, okay, not exactly, but roughly 80-20 nitrogen to oxygen, and breathable. So obviously I don't have my pressure suit on or helmet on. As you can see, I'm doing just fine. The show more here gives you more damage. All right, press L, which is your visor, and then damage button to see how worn out or damaged the items are. So this is the visor that was added in somewhat recently, and there's a bunch of different types of presets. And this correlates to what is installed in our PDA. So our current PDA has power viz and damage viz, as well as some default colorings. So if we go to the damage viz, the more red it is, the more damaged it is, but you can change the color schema if you want, or you can change power. So here we go. Power is usually golden. Things that are powered on are yellow. The wires are the wiggly ones. All right, next goal, the nav. So restore the nav station a little bit. So let's get out of this vision. We have, so I'm just gonna walk you through the ship real quick, and this will be really helpful for new players. This is the KLEG. It's a space station that we're gonna primarily be working out of. And then our ship starts here at the primary airlock. We have a extinguisher here to extinguish fires, 2 lights, 2 thrusters, a nav station with a bunch of wires draped around it because this is a hunk of junk. We've got a Kang here, which is for nitrogen for thruster fuel. We've got a battery, and this battery specifically, I'm probably going to want to restore it as much as I can so I have more battery power. Over here, we have a smoke alarm. We have a nitrogen tank installed underneath the Kang. We have a switch, which I'm not even really sure what this turns on and off, to be honest. Maybe the whole ship? That doesn't make sense. What does this turn off? Let's go to power overlay. Power. Alright, it turns off everything but the transponder. Okay. That's actually not unreasonable. If your transponder's off, you're kind of like in non-compliance with the law. So it's a really good way to like power down the ship without, you know, being illegal or whatever. And then over here we have an optical sensor, and I'll get a little bit farther into what sensors do, but this allows you to actually see outside your ship. And this optical sensor is in relatively good condition. And what it's asking me to do goal-wise is to restore the nav station and to change my roster UI to change the airlock permissions, because otherwise I won't be able to leave the ship. So in the roster menu here, I can say, hey, I'm allowed to open airlocks, which allows me to actually like go places. And this is a really helpful way to like lock people down if you have other crew and you don't want them leaving the ship, like if they don't have airtight suits or whatever. So right-clicking on the nav station here, we can hit restore. And another important thing to note about the nav station is nav stations have been redesigned, so they're modular. So if you open up the inventory of the nav station, it has all these individual module components here. And I'll talk about that in a little bit, so as to not like overcomplicate things. All right, next goal. Use the nav station. Copy that. Before I do that, I'm actually going to ignore the tutorial briefly. Oh, I can't even physically get to my battery. That is cruel. Alright, I'm going to uninstall the nav station that's physically in my way. And then... Oh my god, I don't have the skills for that either. Okay, let's do this later then. Cancel the task. I have probably enough charge for now. So I guess that's fine. Alright. This is a little like note here that you can pull up at a time about not crashing. The important bits is because of the way your thrusters are set up, you can go forward, backward, left, right. There's no up or down. There's no like Z-axis or whatever. And Q and E to rotate. R stops rotation, holding R. That's really important when you like line up with a target. On default, you're on RCS maneuvers, but if you want to move the map around, you can be on map controls. I rarely do that. And the current goal is to open up the comms and then request undocking from KLEG. And we are in the Classic Crow, which is the name of this ship. Alright, so we are going to... Right now, it is on channel KLEG, so we're going to hail the ship, talk to KLEG, and request undocking. And because we've already paid our like docking fees and all that, we're allowed to undock. So then we hit the clamp button here to unclamp from KLEG. All right, next, switch to the navigation controls. Got it. Then press the white diamond labeled KLEG to target it. Done. So now this is our target. And because we have an optical sensor, we can actually physically see what it looks like. We have it in our optics. If we turned off that optical sensor, we wouldn't be able to see anything. All right, next goal. Hit tap E to rotate your ship clockwise. All right. Next goal. Q. Spin counterclockwise. All right, next goal. Use rotation controls until the ship is pointing towards KLEG at a bearing of 0. All right, so right now our bearing is 352. We're 8 degrees off from 0. And I just lightly tap Q to kind of align us to KLEG, and now we're basically at 0. All right, press S and thrust backwards until we reach a velocity of 200 meters per second. There's a mooring control here, which will tell us how fast we're moving, or it says right here. So like right now, my relative velocity to KLEG is 25 moving away. And we need to raise this up to 200, but you can also see it over here. So once we hit the 200 mark on the mooring control, we know we've hit it as well. All right, so now we're moving backward 200 meters per second. Press W to reduce the relative velocity below 10 meters per second again. So basically, slam it forward now. And we can see that I'm at 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 28. Good enough. Oh, I need to be moving towards it. Okay, so now we're moving towards it at 10.46. Press the D to thrust to the right up to 200. So you don't actually have to go forward and backward. All motion is kind of like relative, and we can just thrust to the right instead. We're not any slower thrusting to the right. We have the same amount of thrust. It's a thrust to weight ratio. It's not like directional. All right, so now we're moving 200 to the right. One other thing to note right here is my optics, if you might have noticed. Slightly different now because I don't have a clear view of KLEG anymore because my sensor is partially obscured. So I'm seeing part of it now. Press the A until my relative velocity is below 100 meters. All right, so now 170, 160, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, below 100. Zoom out and find the nav station marked Tutorial Derelict in the boneyard and select it. So you can use your mouse wheel for zooming in and out. You can also, these are the quick zooms for like how far zoom out. So this is like the entire solar system, which is like way more information than you would ever need. And then STN is way, way in. And that's pretty much the zoom level I'm going to be at like all the time, unless I'm doing like a torch burn. But we get into that way, way later. So what it wants me to do is to target the Tutorial Derelict, which is right here. Perfect. All right. Travel within 5 kilometers of the Tutorial Derelict and slow down to lower than 100 meters per second when it's targeted. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. First thing I'm going to do is fix my bearing so it's basically 0. So we're actually pointing at the thing. And then holding R to slow down when we get close to 0. And then I'm going to use my side thrusters to kill my cross velocity. So VCRS here is cross velocity. It's basically like, are you aligned with the target or are you colliding like off axis? So we're killing the cross velocity at 0 and the bearing at 0. And with cross velocity and bearing at 0, we're basically pointing straight at it. Here we go. And I'm going to also lower my thrust a bit. Okay, I am now within 5 kilometers. I'm within 5. As soon as we're within 5 kilometers, the proximity alarm signals. And that is basically saying, yo, you got something happening here. You better throw on the brakes or you're going to die. So we are, I'm not exactly bearing 0 here. I'm pretty close. Let's get bearing 0 before I do the next part of the tutorial. There we go. So I'm 90 meters per second hurtling towards it, basically straight at it. Next goal, match speed, which is K. I personally never use match speed when playing because it's awful, but whatever. I'm going to match speed because the tutorial told me to. Then, with the comms controls button on the right side of the nav map, talk to it. So, hail ship, the Tutorial Derelict, which is the BLEU. Cheese, huh? Ask to dock. It's unresponsive because it's a derelict, so we're going to initiate docking. Now, if there was a captain or someone on it, they would respond and be like, yo, what's up? So now we are in the docking. So dock with the derelict. Use the same flight controls approaching, and then clamp when we get close. So here's how I like to dock. I like to, right now, my relative velocity to this thing is 0, and that's because we match speed. So I'm going to actually take off match speed, because what match speed will do is it will try to have you move exactly the same speed as the other ship, but that also means that you're constantly putting on the brakes when you're trying to approach it, which is worthless in this instance. So I'm taking off match speed, and then I am going to slowly approach. We'll raise the relative velocity up to, like, let's say 50 or so. And you can see the ETA is in 75 seconds. I'm going to use A and D to keep this docking port. Basically, the way you can see it is this big circle is my docking port, and this little circle is their docking port, and we're trying to keep them aligned. And you can see the bearing and cross velocity down here, which is 0.01 and negative 0.11 meter. Basically, there's almost no cross velocity. There. I'm like dead on now. Then I can use right bracket and left bracket to accelerate time or decelerate time. And now that we're a lot closer, I'm going to lower my velocity, relative velocity to it, like 25 meters a second, which is like very, you know, it's like a top speed human sprinter ish, like Usain Bolt speeds. And then this one I'm going to take really carefully, just as like a tutorial. Usually I would be a little bit more fly-by-wire. And then as we get closer, we'll be able to dock with it. So here we go, I'll slow down, and now that it's green, we can hit clamps. And we've docked. Leave the nav station, open the inventory, remove your jumpsuit and shoes, and put on your pressure suit and helmet. So, pressure suit cannot be put over your jumpsuit or anything else. I think what I'm going to do is, in my coveralls, I'm going to put my shoes, and then put the coveralls on the ground. And there you can see the tutorial, the inventory rather, is a little bit different now. Because when you place things, you actually have to find a physical place for it. So you can't just like layer up inventory like you used to be able to. Alright, and pressure suit on. The one important thing to note about this pressure suit actually doesn't have oxygen supply. It's just like airtight, and the only oxygen is the oxygen that's already in the suit. So basically, don't fart. It means that you have like a few minutes before you have to come back to a pressurized section, take off your helmet, refresh the oxygen, and put it back on. Basically, continually resurfacing. So, we are going on the ship. Move the handheld lamp into your hand, toggle it on. So, in our pressure suit, we have a handheld lamp. I'm going to put it in my hand. It has batteries in it. That's worth noting. And right click, toggle power. Because the pressure suit that we have also doesn't have any like built-in lights or anything like that. All right, so now it's toggled on. And step into the derelict. One important difference here. So my ship compartment has oxygen and nitrogen pressurized. I'm in vacuum now. Actually, no, that's not true. I'm not in vacuum yet. Huh, interesting. There is vacuum here, but I guess for this sake of this tutorial, there isn't vacuum everywhere. There's definitely vacuum like on the other side of this door though. So next goal. Pick up the yellow salvage permit on the ground and select read. So pick up and read. In this game, you need to pay a lot of money for valid salvage permits. Well, I guess that's kind of relative. And this is a yellow 24-hour salvage permit, and it expires in exactly 2 hours. So I have 2 hours of legal salvage. Now here's the thing. I didn't buy this, but I can still use it. So anything I buy, or everything I salvage right now, I can sell legitimately. And if you're ever caught on a wrecker, on a derelict, without a salvage license, and the cops come by, you're in trouble. It's worth noting, because it would be illegal salvage. All right, bring up L for visor controls and select the power viz. Provide power to the door by installing a loose conduit in the gap nearby. So, there is a conduit here, and there's a gap. So we're going to install it. And no, this was not streamer luck. This is the tutorial derelict, so it was guaranteed to be there. This is not a RNG derelict. This is a derelict designed to run you through the tutorial. The training wheels are still on. as you can see above my head. All right, done. Access the bridge. Provide power to the door down the long hallway, or to borrow excess conduits if necessary, or to find another way past the door. So I'm going to go out here, and hey, look, it's a crowbar. That's a universal skeleton key if I've ever seen one. But there was extra conduits here that you could install in place to open up subsequent doors. All right, now what does it want me to do? Use the crowbar to pry the bridge open, or uninstall the conduit. So let's go ahead and pry the bridge open. Ta-da! Whoever this was, they don't need it anymore. Take what you can from the lockers. A rush of gas escapes the bridge as you force open the door. Once upon a time, this hot little number ferried Panmen to Kyangtenmen, Mars L4 to L5 and back. 48 people a pop, all while rated for just 32. A whole fleet of them, just like it, ran that relay on gas blasts so fine and cheap they were hardly there at all. But in time, the operation evolves or dies. Mars is coming up in the worlds. Their workhorses turn into old nags and sent out to pasture here in KLEG, awaiting the tender mercies of a full shipbreaker's crew in AO Main Bay. KLEG receives one ship a week, every week, from everywhere and anywhere and everywhere in the system. It has for almost 50 years. With a full head of steam, AO can just about process one ship a week. Following exigencies of labor and best laid plans, there are now hundreds of ships in backlog so long and convoluted that they would never see another human soul, let alone inside of a breaker's yard. That's where you come in. So basically, our character lives in like a salvage, like an artificial asteroid belt of derelict ships, maybe is kind of the way to think about it. All right, so we need to fly back and dock with KLEG to sell our salvage. Well, I don't have any salvage yet, so let's get some salvage. So we have an O2 can, and this O2 can has 100% oxygen in it. This rough value will tell you a little bit of whether or not it's worth taking. So like this canister is empty and worth not as much as the O2 can. From my experience, the O2 can is going to be worth like 10 times that of the orange can that has nothing in it. And what we want to do is we want to take everything not nailed down that is worth something, provided that we have the space in our little wrecker for it. You also, on the bottom right of the screen, see that CO2 high? What that is I am running out of oxygen in my pressure suit. So I gotta make my way back to my little jerry-rigged hunk of junk. Pull off the helmet. Put the helmet back on. And continue work. Really? I'm O2 low? You serious? There's plenty of O2 in this room, isn't there? Compartment. It's a little depressurized. Actually, you know what? Yes, I am O2 low. Alright. That's because we don't actually have an O2 tank on this little Coffin ship. Okay, use the floor, dude. No, don't be floating. Alright. Now, as much as I would like to take other things from this ship, you know what? I am unconscious. Well, I was. Oh, Coffin ship, how I don't love you. All right, you can put this down right there. All right, let's relax a minute, get some oxygen in our very oxygen-deprived lungs, and then we'll head back out. The compartment here it's very low in oxygen. So what's happening here, if you're wondering, is we don't actually have an oxygen pump in this little shuttle. So I have this oxygen can, but it doesn't really do anything on its own. It would need to be pump cycled, and I probably don't have enough oxygen to do that cycle. Oh. Okay, let me try to load an autosave, because I didn't play that right. Time to get back to where we are, and I'll have to be a lot more careful about standing anywhere for any period of time in or near airlocks. Cheers. So I don't yet have the pry bar, so we're going to pop this open. The pry bar. Nothing in this rack. Let's go get that crowbar. Oh, right. I haven't adjusted my roster yet. You're allowed to go through airlocks. I also don't have the work light on, because I could put it on, but it doesn't really matter. All right, here we go. Work light, toggle power. So we know what we're after here. We're after this O2 can. I think it's the most important grab here that will fit. I do believe we have space for the Kang as well, if we can get the Kang. But it really depends on how many oxygen cycles I can get out of this suit. So let's get back to our death shuttle and try to cycle quickly. Airlock's closed. Compartment is low oxygen. I'm not going to get another cycle out of this. So what I'm going to try to do here is go for just the O2 and then go back to... I'm already O2 low. Wow, they really don't want me surviving at all. I don't think it's worth the risk. Alright, let's undock. Point to KLEG. And start burning. Now, I can borrow air from KLEG. When we dock with KLEG, we can open up our airlock and basically just borrow KLEG's air, which is one way to as a stop. Oh. No, I think following the tutorial at all is kind of a fatal mistake here. Maybe, we'll see. Time to launch a missile at KLEG, right? Alright, prox warnings cleared. Let's hail and dock. I'm surprised that doesn't happen more often, like in the lore of this game, where like people suffocate in perfect precision transit to KLEG and like impact them. Alright, here we go. We're on approach. Coming in hot. These other proximity collision alarms are probably most likely other people docking at KLEG. And they're not going to enter... I'm not going to hit them on this approach. Alright. So if I open these airlocks, we can pressure equalize the air in KLEG and the air in here. If we take a look at the compartment now, oxygen and nitrogen will be going up. And I have to open this one too. Now you don't want to necessarily borrow too much of KLEG's air because they do sort of have finite air, and you can find yourself... come on, open that. No, open. You can find yourself in a situation where you like kill everyone in the station by like borrowing too much air, but you know. So don't do that. Okay, we should have that like lack of sleep warning go away. And one thing I'm going to do now that I'm back and have like a valid permit is set up a little trade zone, barter zone here. This is going to be a barter hall zone. And I think what I want to do is I want to sell stuff I don't necessarily need to make it a little bit easier to survive. So we go up to this licenses only kiosk. And we'll be able to buy and sell stuff with the permit that we have. In order to make this thing survivable, we need to make some required improvements. So in my PDA, one thing that we could do is get rid of the power and damage viz, because I'll find other ones, and that's going to give us a lot of startup funds. I'm going to get rid of the tactical knife. It's not a very good weapon, so I don't think it's really worth keeping anyway. And then in the barter zone, I'm going to get rid of the toolbox and the coveralls and sneakers. I don't need those either. Okay, we about 5K now to our name. Melon G, thank you for the resub. And Tarmarin too, I missed that. And Dave and Ali K. Alright, so one of the things we're going to want for this thing to be somewhat more survivable is a method to add oxygen to it, right? So I'm going to want to set up like a basic ox pump setup. Oh, I meant to... yeah, let's grab our work light and toggle off power. I'm going to remember cheating death and feel more accomplished. All right, so some of the things we could do. Let's first check out the scrap kiosk to see... actually, you know what? I'm just going to sit for a while so that we can catch our breath, so to speak, because we had that near death. And it should be going away sooner or later. Okay, if not, I'm just going to keep plowing through it. Alright, so here's the scrap stuff that we can buy. We're also going to need to pay docking fees and refueling fees. So I don't necessarily want to spend down all my money because I won't have enough money to do the other things that I need to do. So we're going to want some sort of like pump, probably a floor, and then like some sort of oxygen tank. And that will be the cheapest way to sort of oxygenate the cabin here. What I was hoping to do is buy a pump that was broken that we could repair, but it doesn't look like there is one for sale. And what we can do in this case is buy the floor. We're not going to buy the floor right now because I don't move very fast. So going outside in space where we would install the floor is dangerous because I'm not able to move quick enough to do it within like one breath, so to speak. So I'm going to hold off on that. All right. Here in the supply kiosk, this is more of a guaranteed stuff to buy, right? We could buy an oxygen candle as a stopgap measure. The oxygen candle is like a single-use, oxygenates the cabin, but it is rather costly, and I would like to avoid buying stuff like that because it's, again, single-use. Now, there is a O2 canister here. Here's the thing. We know where the an O2 can is on that derelict. So going back to that derelict after buying like an air pump and using the O2 can that we found on the derelict will allow us to pressurize our cabin for survivability. So that is the plan, to buy an air pump here. And the reason why I'm not taking an air pump from the derelict is I don't even think there's enough time to probably grab the O2 pump or the O2 can and an air pump without, you know, potentially cheating death. Now, in this case, because we've set up a barter zone for our ship, the we can send items directly to the barter zone. Let's go ahead and do that. And now we have this air pump here that we'll need to install. I think I just passed out on the ground, didn't I? Alright. Hunter, how about you try to get to a bed? Here we go. Now you're back to normal-ish. Thank you for tuning in to Ostranauts, which originally streamed live on Twitch. If you have any questions for me, let me know in the comments below. I am not, however, looking for backseating, tips, or feedback. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you'd like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhadamant.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching. Special thank you to my Twitch subscribers, Patreon patrons, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you in next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow shipbreakers.